Today is Tuesday, August 19th, 2022. Yesterday I created a post describing a report written by Barton Gilman Law Firm. The firm was commissioned by the Warwick School Committee with the support of Warwick City Council. They were hired as a result of the school committee contemplating suing the city in 2019 after their budget was level funded using the Carullo Act. The Carullo Act is a state law that allows the school committee to sue. In this case, the Warwick School Committee suing the city of Warwick if they believe the amount of money appropriated by the city, they can't meet their statutory, regulatory, and contractual obligations. And if you recall, in 2019, one of the most vocal controversies was the proposal to eliminate school sports. What happened as a result of that controversy was that the city eventually gave the schools $4 million more. But to give them the $4 million, the schools had to agree to hire this firm to conduct a budget comparison to other districts, and they also had to develop an expenditure reduction plan. So there's two phases of this report. Phase one was presented to the school committee and the full city council in December 2019, and then phase two of this report was developed and presented to the school committee a little over a year ago in March 2021. What I want to focus on today is the topic of where Warwick teachers rank in salary in comparison to the state. And how much more Warwick taxpayers pay in comparison to the state average, and also looking at the neighborhood community of Cranston. But before I do that, I want everybody to listen one more time to what the chief analyst summarized in this what's going on with the Warwick schools, and he used a term that we're looking at a train wreck and we're going to need state intervention soon. So I just want you to take a listen to that, and then we'll come back and talk about the salaries.
It appears you're on that path. There's no way of knowing when that would actually come to fruition, but without significant changes that you may not even be able to achieve, that's at least going to be part of the discussion in our estimation. Alex, if I missed something significant that you think, Mr. Brignano, that I should point out, please jump in.
No, Matt, I think you covered it really well. I would just stress that if I was writing that last bullet, district will likely confront progressive support. I would have that a little stronger. You are going to get there. The way things are going, that's where you will end up. You're not going to be able to do things like Carullo and stuff, not with the contracts and stuff that have been given out, the benefits that are not in line with most other places. This is heading for a real train wreck. And I've been doing this for 40-something years. I can guarantee you that's where you're going if you don't make changes.
So before I play this clip on where Warwick teachers' salaries rank in terms of others in the state, I just want people to really contemplate that this presentation was made to the school committee in March of 2021. And right after this, 8 weeks after this presentation was made with these dire warnings about the train wreck and where Warwick teachers compare in salary and benefits and everything with the budget, Judith Cogburn entered into negotiations with the Warwick Teachers Union by herself. The superintendent was not present, the legal team was not present, and she proceeded to negotiate a contract with the Warwick teachers that would give them $8 million more in salary increases. Unbelievable that something like that would happen after they were presented with these scenarios over here. The school committee voted 3-2 with Kyle Adams and Nathan Cornell agreeing with those raises. And I just want you to think about that in terms of these three people are up for re-election next year, and that they would do something like that after having this kind of warning with absolutely no expertise. I was on the school committee, and during that time, we would never ever go into a negotiating session with our attorneys, the secondary director of education, elementary director of education, the superintendent, the personnel director, and the full legal team, and also the finance director. Totally outrageous. So listen to this clip now about where teachers rank in terms of salaries.
The most recent data we had in 2019 when we were doing this was significantly higher by more than $2,000 relative to the statewide average. If you multiplied that overage times the number of your students. That's a lot of money. So where's the money going? Salary and related payroll taxes, as we pointed out. Benefits, again, your benefits programs is considerably expensive, especially relative to your peers. In Social Security, I actually think I saw a comment in the chat box and going through. Social Security is a benefit that is not available to every public school teacher in the country or in Rhode Island. And that's not something that you can impact as a school committee. The city can't impact now. 60 years ago, the state entered into an agreement with the federal government regarding how they would afford access to public employees that otherwise had access to a public pension program. Certain municipalities signed on where they would be part of a public pension program and part of Social Security program. You folks are part of that. So you participate in Social Security where other districts don't. And there's, out of the 30-something traditional public school districts, I think it's less than half that do. Again, you're stuck with that. So that's going to be a component of it. And because you have that, and because you pay in and teachers pay in, that's going to impact, in all likelihood, what you can do going forward.
So what we just learned in that last video clip was that if Warwick teachers were paid on the state average, we would save $22 million a year. Think about that for a second, $22 million. So that was as of 2019. Now, this is an analysis I've been doing over the years that shows in blue the school committee budget. So the school committee budget is going from 135.2 million in 2004 all the way up to 173 million. That was in the proposed 2022 budget. If you look at the line in red, that's the student enrollment. You can see it was 12,000 students back in 2004, and it was subsequently has decreased to a point to about 8,000 students today. Now, at the same time, you can see that the line in green is the per pupil cost. So in 2004 was about $11.3 thousand per student, and look what it's gone up to, all the way up to about almost $22,000 per student in that period of time. So what they were talking about that period of time was 2019. We've already given out additional raises, and the fact of the matter is, how could anybody negotiate a contract on their own, giving more raises to the teachers when they're already one of the highest paid in the state, and it's basically taking away from every other program that we need to support our students. Now, this slide is also from the presentation by that legal firm, and what it shows is that Warwick, the bottom step and even top step teacher pay is one of the highest of all the other comparable school districts I was compared to. And it also says, I highlighted in yellow, as the chart indicates, both the initial and top step salaries in Warwick exceed all of the initial and top step salaries in comparative districts. Warwick's top step is among the highest in Rhode Island and has increased 3% each year of the current contract. So once again, you know, knowing all this information that was presented in the school committee under Judith Cobden, Kyle Adams, and Nathan Cornell, negotiated a contract on their own, ratified the contract, and actually made these salaries go even higher, and we couldn't afford them. Also, the Social Security benefit, it's something that the teachers never really want to include as part of their compensation. It costs the districts $5 million extra a year. Cranston teachers don't get that. So when you think about that, when they retire, they'll get the state retirement monies, and then they'll also get the Social Security benefit. There's not many districts that do that, and when you're negotiating these contracts, you really have to keep in mind that extra expense that the taxpayers pay in the city of Warwick, and how, you know, the compensation should include that figure when we're talking about overall compensation. Now, when we talk about medical insurance for the Warwick school system, you might typically hear people say that, you know, it's a 20% copay. It really isn't. That's what this report shows. It shows that basically, because of other stipulations and I think caps in the contract, that 20% copay as of 2019, when it was negotiated, it's for that first year of the contract. Then in additional years on, there's no increase. It's kind of a fixed rate. So in reality, what this chart is showing you is that 20% copay was in 2019, it was about a 13% copay. And if you go on and read the report, a true 20% copay would save the school district $1 million more. And when Cobden negotiated that contract, none of this additional the copays were insignificant in terms of the savings compared to what we would be paying for the increase of $8 million in salary.
I move that we hold the vote on the CBA for the time being until we can get further information. $8 million over the next 2 years may not be possible.
So I'm going to provide a link to the school committee's testimony. I mean, it went on for about 10-15 minutes or so, back and forth between the two school committee members, Dave Testa and Karen Backus, who wanted to reject that tentative agreement, and the other three, Chairwoman Judith Cobden, Kyle Adams, and Nathan Cornell, who ultimately ratified that contract. But I think just to summarize the whole purpose of this post here, whole purpose of this post is the fact that the school committee was giving a dire warning about major changes that needed to take place in the contract. You know, Warwick's per pupil cost was close to the highest in the state. If it just mirrored the cost of the average of the state, we would save $22 million a year. I mean, that's incredible. You know, if you took a look at it mirroring Cranston's collective bargaining agreement for the teachers and non-teaching staff, it would grow to about $10 million. So, I mean, think about that and what that money could be used for. You know, that money could be used to build 2 new schools with no budget, with no tax increase, 2 new schools. And you know, the interesting thing is right after the ratification vote, the talk about building the schools continued. So it's been one bad decision after another, and this seems like there's no regards. We just want to borrow $350 million and build new schools. I mean, the bottom line is that we need to elect 3 new members of the school committee in these district seats. And I really believe that, you know, from my experience on school committee, some of these things in this contract you're not going to be able to get rid of. The Evergreen legislation froze a lot of that language. I mean, when I was there, we went through 3 years without a contract. The citizens and the children and the parents paid hell with work to rule. I really feel that we should elect 3 new members of the school committee that will ask the state to come in. We need the state to come in, step in, and tear apart these provisions in this contract that are just costing us tens of millions of more dollars than what we need to pay, and take that money and reallocate it so maybe we could build schools, but not through this $350 million in borrowing. We are going to bankrupt people in the city of Warwick. So people need to pay attention to this. They should attend the budget hearings. They should hold the school committee and everybody accountable to these decisions, and just get as much information as possible. And for the people that are running for school committee, these should be out front positions that they need to understand, and they should be able to answer questions as to what their position is on these. So I'm going to continue to post more information from this report each day, so we can just everybody can get a better understanding of what's going on. Thank you very much.